And Changi Airport's first quarter saw passenger traffic exceed pre-COVID levels for the first time. It's aiming for full recovery this year. For more analysis, I'm joined by Henk Ombelet. He is Head of Advisory Operations at Aviation consultancy Cirium Ascend. Good evening to you, Mr. Ombelet. First off, 2019, it was a strong year for the Changi Air Hub. Passenger traffic seemed on track for another record-breaking year. That was until the pandemic struck, of course. Looking at the first quarter figures now, is Changi Airport back on an upward trajectory here?
Well, the first quarter figures are certainly very good compared to previous year, 2023. And we are now at the point where we are getting to the 2019 levels. We're expecting that for the rest of 2024, this trend will be continued. So by the end of the year, Changi will probably be just above 2019 levels. And then we'll see further growth in 2025.
So those are positive predictions there. Meantime, Mr. Ombelet, China has returned to its position as Changi Airport's top market again. That was last quarter. Chinese travel in general, that has recovered slower than expected, though. Can Singapore or anyone, in fact, really bank on Chinese travel recovery to boost passenger traffic moving forward? What factors are at play here?
Well, I think Chinese travel hasn't so much recovered slowly as later than the rest of the world. China opened much later. Domestic traffic in China recovered very quickly, but the China, of course, kept its borders closed for a very long time. So what we've seen in 23 and now 24 is that traffic to and from China has been growing very fast. That's not just in Singapore, but most Asian countries have seen the same growth in their traffic to and from China. Several factors are at play as to whether that's going to continue. Of course, economic factors, whether the economy in China is going to continue to grow, whether there's going to be the disposable income for Chinese people to travel, whether the outbound group travel is going to recover again, or whether we're going to see perhaps a little bit more of individual travel. And of course, visa regulations as well, they can stimulate travel, as I think we've seen in Singapore as well, where there's now a 30-day visa relaxation, which helps this. I don't think anyone can always be completely reliant on any single market, and being reliant on a very large market has a certain risk. But if there's no further upheavals, then I would expect China travel to continue to grow, perhaps not as fast as it did before, but certainly it will grow by between 5 and 10% per year.
Since Chinese travel has resumed for the rest of the region, as you've said, Mr. Ombelet, what does that mean for Changi Airport, though?
It means that Changi still has to defend its competitive position. The Chinese travelers have options of where they want to go. Of course, Singapore is a very attractive destination, but so are other destinations as well. So in order to continue to attract Chinese travelers, the airport and the airlines, as well as the tourism authorities in Singapore, need to make sure there is a welcoming environment for Chinese travelers. And of course, also you can get the connecting traffic, so people who travel from China to elsewhere. Singapore Airlines, of course, does a very good job at that. And they will continue to have to do so in competition with other airlines as well to maintain that position.
Well, meantime, Mr. Ombelet, the challenges remain. There are risks as well. We're seeing globally rising geopolitical tensions, which are actually impacting the aviation sector as well. Some flights to Europe, as an example, taking longer. Some of those airlines actually avoiding Iranian airspace because of the political situation in that area. How could developments like that affect travel recovery here in the Asia Pacific and also the air hub here in Singapore?
It's very hard to predict these sorts of events. I mean, we've seen this over the past 5 years with the COVID pandemic. Geopolitical events in the Middle East can affect traffic. And as you said, Iranian airspace, Israeli airspace, and other airspaces have been closed. The same is happening with the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, although the impact of that on global international travel has been limited. The geopolitical situation in Asia, of course, can also would also impact if there were issues between, say, if the relationship between China and Taiwan was changing, that might impact travel in Asia, or if there was another health scare, whether it was in Asia or elsewhere, that might also impact the air travel, including Singapore. Of course, we've seen that especially hub travel, and Singapore relies for a large part of its traffic on connecting passengers. Hub travel is very much affected if there are geopolitical tensions, because people prefer to fly direct and not have the risk of a connection in a foreign airport. Having said that, I hope there are no major political upheavals or geopolitical upheavals over the next year, so that the tourism and the air travel industry can get back to a pattern of steady growth based on the favorable economic conditions.
Yes, that certainly would be ideal. A quick final question for you, Mr. Ombelet. Part of the aviation story, of course, is air cargo. That sector has turned around for the first time after 7 quarters. Can it be sustained, though, for the rest of this year, do you think?
I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be sustained. I don't think it's going to drop very much, but air cargo does depend on international trade and GDP growth, and that there are challenges in certain major countries, especially here in Europe. And of course, a lot of the air travel is long haul, and a lot of the cargo air traffic is long haul. The other thing is, of course, that only a small percentage of the weight of global trade goes by air. A lot of it goes by ship, by train. And so if there are changes in the shipping environment, that can have an impact on the air travel environment. Sometimes a positive impact. If a ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal, people have to find alternatives. But if shipping becomes cheaper, then of course shippers will move their goods from aircraft to ships. The other thing is, of course, that following the experiences of the pandemic, companies have changed their supply lines, their logistics a little bit, and have reduced and shortened their logistics so that they store some things from closer by, so as to not depend on disruptions within the industry. And that might also have a slightly dampening effect on air cargo. So it will continue to be strong, reasonably strong in 2024, but I'm not expecting any stellar growth this year.
All right, Mr. Ombelet, thank you for those predictions and for your time this evening. Henk Ombelet, the Head of Advisory Operations at Cirium Ascend. Thank you.